Welcome to If the Public Only Knew, the show that pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to build and lead a business. Host Gary Cinderbrandt sits down with some of today's most dynamic CEOs, founders, and leaders to dig into their origin stories, hard-earned lessons, and the missteps that nearly derailed it all. These are unfiltered, no-hype conversations designed to inspire, challenge, and fuel your own journey. Now here's your host, Gary Cinderbrandt.
Welcome back to If the Public Only Knew. My guest today is Patrick Thean, who on the evolution, I would say, of a career path, probably didn't think he was going to end up where he is now in the leadership and CEO executive coaching area, especially graduating with an undergrad and a master's degree in electrical engineering. So Patrick, first of all, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
And I need to know, how do we go from one of the most technical engineering degrees and even a master's?
Yes.
What happened when you got that ME degree, you got that master's degree? I don't think your first job was leadership coaching.
No, I tell you what, I actually have a electrical engineering degree in signal processing and image processing. So highly technical. And I thought that I was going to spend my life really doing, sound and stuff like that. But I think in life, you make key decisions at key inflection points of your life. So I was interviewing for a job, and I'm from Singapore, and I was at Cornell University getting my degrees. And with a student visa, very few companies were interviewing foreign students at that time. And so I had two job opportunities, which was really amazing, frankly, for a foreign student. I had one job opportunity with Analog Devices in Boston doing signal processing, what I had trained to do, and it was great. I was excited. But I had a second job opportunity from Oracle Corporation. And back then, Oracle was a small company. I mean, they were public. They were like a $250 million firm. They were public, but they were not that big. And when I visited Oracle, people were amazing. The office was glorious. And I jokingly tell my friends, it was the croissants, because I visited them I interviewed in the office on a day where it was a snowstorm. And my plane from Ithaca to DC, the DC office, was grounded in Philadelphia. And I hitched a ride, frankly. I hitched a ride with somebody on that plane on their way to DC. I caught the ride and I said, hey, drop me off in DC for my interview. And this woman I was thankful she said, okay. And we're driving, and then she says, okay, where in DC do I drop you off? And I said, Bethesda, Maryland. And she said, Bethesda, Maryland? That's not DC. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm from Singapore. I don't really know. But it's close to DC, right? She said, yeah, but that's Bethesda, Maryland.
Yeah,
that's
the other side of the loop.
Yeah. And I said, fine. She said, well, I'll kind of pass the belt. I said, just drop me off at the exit. And she said, Patrick, we're knee deep in snow. That's why the plane got ground. We're driving at 30 miles per hour from Philly to DC and drop you off at the exit. How are you going to get to your interview? And I said to her, and I really meant it. I said, well, if I can get from Philly to the exit of Bethesda, Maryland, I'm sure I can get to my interview somehow. I'll figure it out. And she was very kind. She said, I can't believe that's what you believe, but you know what, Patrick, I'll just take you to your interview. So she took me. She drove me to Bethesda, Maryland, and Oracle was closed that day, but they were open. They were closed but open, and they interviewed me. And when I went in there, they had this table of croissants. But I've never seen croissants that large and that exciting and that delicious. And they said, kid, just clean yourself up, have lunch. And I was so focused on getting my interview. I was like, who cares about lunch? I'm late for my interview. It's supposed to be 1 o'clock, and it's 1:20 now. And the guy's like, kid, just calm down. You look like shit. Just go clean yourself up and then eat something, and I'll interview you. You're okay. And being the engineer, I'm like, I don't care about the food. I'm late. And they're like, all right, I'll reset the time. Your interview is now 2 o'clock. You're no longer late. Go clean yourself up. And so I walked in the conference room, and there were all these croissants, and I thought, oh my God, for a day where the office is closed, why do they have all this food here? And I asked the manager, his name's Tim. I said, Tim, how come there's so much food here? He said, well, Patrick, today is officially, it's a snow day. No one's supposed to be here. So we figured we just provide lunch, for anyone who would come in. And then all the people I met were just wonderful. And so I kind of made the decision based on the people I met, the people I thought I would want to hang out with, frankly. I didn't even know, but that's kind of how I've made most of my decisions in life. I think it's been very much about who I'm going to hang out with, how much joy I'm going to have working with these people. And I've learned over the years that, what engineering did for me was it gave me a good brain. It trained my mind. I'm a critical thinker, and it's helped me in all the career steps I've taken.
So what was your role at Oracle?
So I joined the consulting division, and that was the early days. I was the first. I think the consulting division had less than 100 consultants, so I was one of the first ones. And in fact, when they interviewed at Cornell, this is 1988, so it's pre-internet, right? And couldn't find anything about Oracle. And at the interview, I apologized. I said, "Hey, I can't find anything about you guys, and can you please tell me about the company first?" So I kind of took over the interview without realizing it. And then they told me what they did. And I thought, well, it's a software company and database, and I don't know anything about databases. So I probably don't want this job. So I'm going to have some fun here. So I'm very respectful when I have fun, by the way. When I say I have fun, I am still very respectful. So I asked them, I said, I love the Macintosh, and you're a high-tech database company. What do you have for the Mac? And they said, well, we don't have any software for the Mac. And I said, well, how can you be a high-tech company when we don't have software for the most high-tech computer on earth, the Macintosh? Of course, I didn't know what I was talking about because I'm just a kid. And we spent the next 30 minutes talking about how I would see the database working on a Mac, and how you would have a graphical user interface with data, and make information graphical. At the end of the interview, which I like I said, I was just having fun. The guy said to me, he said, Patrick, you would make a great consultant. Would you like to come interview? And I was stunned. I thought, what? And so I said, sure, I'll come interview. I asked my friend, and one day we were in our prayer meeting. I said, I don't know if I should go to this interview. I feel like I'm wasting the guy's money to take me out to DC to interview. And my buddy asked me, he said, Patrick, you want a job, right? I said, that's right. He said, you have a fiance here in the US, right? I said, that's right. And he said, if you don't get a job, what do you have to do? I said, I have to go home. And that's a bad thing. He said, that's right. Do you have a job? I said, no, I don't. He goes, take the interview, idiot. You don't have a job yet. Take the interview. And so, very simple lesson, right? Until you have options, don't say no. So I was about to say no because I didn't think I would enjoy the job. And that started, so I ended up with 2 job offers, right? One, exactly what I thought I wanted to work on, and one with people I thought I wanted to spend time with. And that's how I went to Oracle. And then after 2 years, 9 months at Oracle, then I started my own software company. So I've been in software all my life. And that one key decision of going to Oracle, I guess, switched me from hardware to software.
So when you say you moved into software, did you move into full stack development? Did you look at did you look at problems you wanted to solve?
Yeah,
How did you go about that?
Consulting is in those days at Oracle was really building business systems. So this is in the late 80s. SAP and Oracle were building business application software. But right at the time, everybody was buying a database and buying tools and paying consultants to build custom business software. And so that's what I did for 2 years and 9 months at Oracle. So in my short time there, I traveled to so many clients. I worked on so many projects. I built a lot of software. So I started Metasys, that was really an Oracle consulting shop at first, but I really wanted to build software. And so we built a transportation system for a customer, and then I negotiated with that client to give it back to me so that I could then use this as a launch point for our software division at Metasys. The software was called MetaFreight. It was transportation management. And I am proud to say that, when I did electrical engineering, I studied control systems and predictability. And so I did use my knowledge to build our intelligent routing application for sending trucks to the right place and that kind of good stuff. It's what we would call the traveling salesman problem. So we built that, and then medicine became very successful. It took me 7 years to build the company. We were number 151 on the Inc. 500. We were Entrepreneur of the Year for North Carolina. We were very successful. The world looking in, we were very successful. And then we sold the company 7 years later. So I've always been in software. And so Medisys was transportation logistics software, business software focused on, on logistics. Yeah.
So you were building software at the enterprise level.
Yes.
It was running
Yeah.
on your client's servers.
Yes.
And interesting. So you were responsible for deployments, upgrades,
That's
that whole
right.
thing as well.
That's right. And I would say that I learned a lot from Oracle in my short time there. And I learned a lot really by just learning, by doing the best I could and then learning very quickly. I always believe that it's okay to make mistakes. Just try to learn from them and don't make them twice. I always say to my friends and my employees, look, I don't mind you making mistakes. That's as far as I'm concerned, me paying for tuition. But please, please don't make me pay for tuition twice for the same course. So that's how I always viewed it. And so from Medisys, I'll tell you, from the outside looking in, we're very successful. From the inside looking out, we were stressed. I mean, we were running from crisis to crisis, and we survived and survived. And I always felt like just when I figured out how to manage 10 people, we had 20. And then just when I figured out how to manage 20 people, we had 50. And just when I figured out how to manage 50 people, we had 100. I always felt like the dog running behind the car, never able to catch the car. And so at Medisys, I built my first early warning system of leading indicators to help us avoid problems. And that is actually the genesis of my journey from 20 over years ago of thinking through why a lot of companies actually fail. We succeeded by the grace of God and by moving quickly and by solving problems. But execution is the main reason why most companies fail. Not because they don't have strategy, not because they don't know what to do, but they can't deliver on their commitments. And so at Medisys, I learned that the hard way. We delivered on our commitments. We succeeded. But after that, I really pondered this question about how hard the CEO's job is, why CEOs fail, and why companies don't succeed. And so after that, over the last 25 years, I've really been studying and working on that question of how do I help CEOs succeed and achieve their dreams. So that answers your early question to me about how did an electrical engineer go from where he was to the people business, right? Because what I realized was that in engineering school, they teach you how to solve problems, they teach you how to build things, but they never taught me that the biggest challenge to solve is not the engineering problem, it's the human problem. It's the human problem. I've seen the best projects fail because people can't get along, and I've seen the mediocre teams become super teams because they have great team health and they helped each other and they learned along the way. So I would say I'm in the business of helping CEOs who have the hardest job on the planet not fail, but achieve their dreams.
Let me come back a little bit to the growth of Medisys. You left a job that had stability with a rapidly growing company with Oracle. You
Yes.
clearly enjoyed what you were doing.
And I was 26, 27 years old. Yeah.
And at the end of it, if your clients listened, great. If they didn't, it wasn't likely going to be your fault. Now all of a sudden, you're going to put the weight of the world in front of you. You've got an idea,
Yes.
which means you've got to go out and enlist people. You've got to raise some capital. And all of a sudden, you go from a position where you're reporting to someone, and you could go to somebody else for advice or guidance, where all of a sudden you're the guy. And now you're in the people business with
Yes.
10 people, 5 people, whatever the number is. Did you recognize at the time that you needed to develop an alternative skill set, or did you approach it with the same critical thought you would approach an engineering problem?
So I don't think I knew what I was getting into. And frankly, I think sometimes people can think too much. And when you think too much, you can see all the problems and all the fears ahead of you that stops you from taking the leap. I didn't do that. I really, and by the way, I think that different people are entrepreneurs for different reasons. Some people want to get rich, some people want freedom, some people don't want a boss. Uh, I was none of those. I really was, I was chasing a dream and I wanted to have fun. And Bill Gates had a quote that stuck in my head, which was that he was having so much fun at Microsoft writing code. He said, I can't believe they pay me for this. Like I would have done it for free, but don't tell them. Like, I can't believe I'm having so much fun and they pay me for this. And so I've always believed that, look, if you could really enjoy your work, then work is fun. And if work is play, then play is work, and then you never really work a day. And I felt like I've worked very few days. The days that I felt like work were the tough days, it's not always fun and games running a business, right? There's always tough decisions to make. There's always customers who disappoint you, or you disappoint a customer. Those are bad days. So yes, I've had bad days, and those bad days are not fun. But those are all part of, if you don't have the valleys, you don't enjoy the highs either. So I would say that for me, I'm a dream chaser. I wanted to change the world in some way, shape, or form. I wanted to make the place better for transportation, for logistics. And today I want to make the place better for CEOs, and I want to make an impact. And so that's kind of what I was doing. And I was having fun at that time, writing code, writing software. In fact, I told my business partner, I said, Ray, I'll never give up R&D. I'll never stop running development, which of course I did a few years later, because if I didn't give up running R&D, Medicines would never have grown into the powerhouse that it was, and the success that we had. So I think for me, you've got to take a leap of faith in many ways, and you don't want to think too much. I know it sounds crazy coming from an engineer who's a critical thinker, but you want to decide if something is going to be a lot of fun for you. It's gonna ignite your imagination, and it's going to ignite the joy in your heart, and then just go do that. I mean, the money will come. Like the money will just flow if you figure that out. That's what I believe. And I know that it sounds very idealistic, but I think sometimes I'm not idealistic enough. In fact, one of my mentors a long time ago, I'm 61 this year. So in my 40s, one of my mentors said to me, I was running Mindblaze at the time, and he called me up and said, Patrick, you need to come work for me. I said, Richard, I'm not going to come work for you. I've got my own company. He says, I know. But you're an amazing guy. I love you. And I've learned that I only want to work with people I love to work with, and you're one of those guys. And so after you're done with Mindblazer, you need to come work for me. And he explained to me how he wanted to work 10 more years. He was older than me, an older gentleman. But unfortunately, Richard didn't have 10 more years. Like a couple of years after that discussion he and I had, he had a brain tumor, and he fought that for 1 year, and he passed away. But it really hit me. He said, Patrick, it took me till I'm 55 to figure this out. And when he shared that with me, I was 40-ish. And I said, well, if I can do at 40 what Richard figured out at 55, I would have saved 15 years. So that's kind of how I always think of, like, that makes sense. The guy figured it out at 55. Why have to wait that long? I'll just do it now. So from then on, I just said, okay, I need to really work with people I like to work with that will really significantly increase the joy factor of my life in my workplace. And I came to realize, we spend more than 70% of our waking hours at work. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you work with people you dislike, I mean, why? So I think most of us, unfortunately, don't take the action to make the change because, of the faith, the fear of change, and we don't make those changes. But we all have the power. We all have the power to change our environment, change what we don't like. And I think that for me, my journey has always been about, look, if I don't enjoy something, I have the power to change that. So I need to decide, like, do I want to keep going? Do I want to make this work? And by the way, I'm a very committed, loyal person. So I don't want to give you the impression that oh, Patrick's flaky. Like he didn't enjoy that boom. He's gone. No, I've been doing this company, Rhythm Systems is our 20th year in business. So,
Hmm.
so I'm a guy who stays at it. But what I mean by that is, if you're not in a good situation, you should make the changes. Whether it's to have the tough conversation, I call those spicy conversations, the spicy conversations with the people that you need to, so you can change the situation. But I think the worst thing to do is to have the victim mentality of, oh, you've done something to me and I'm unhappy. No, that wasn't done to you. You've allowed yourself to be unhappy. Just take some action, make a change, and cause something better to happen. So then I
Tell me
think
about
that's
Rhythm
my process.
Systems. Tell me what you do now. I'm interested in how you've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
What was the
So
original goal and what's the status of the business now versus what you started?
so after Medicis, I started a company called MindBlazer with a friend. And MindBlazer was about e-learning. And e-learning, and this was during the dot-com bust, frankly. So 1999, 2000, I started MindBlazer. And I was such a genius to start it at the peak and just take it for the dive, right? So we survived the dot-com bust, which was very painful. We survived it. And then I began to realize the following, that MindBlazer was good, but it took me away from my desire to help CEOs succeed. So I started getting to coaching, and frankly, I didn't really want to get into coaching. It was more my friends asked me to help them after I sold medicines, and I started helping people. And I started realizing that I really enjoyed helping people, and so I started realizing a few things. First, MindBlazer, my second company, was a venture funded firm, and it was meant to be built and sold. And I realized that I was not the typical entrepreneur, that I didn't enjoy that process. Like I didn't enjoy the transition process. And so I thought, well, why don't I build a company and not worry about selling it? In fact, Medicis, I built a company without the intention of selling it.
Hmm.
But we did raise capital. And I didn't realize at the time that when you raise capital, you pretty much sold your company. So Rhythm Systems is built as a boutique firm to help CEOs succeed, have more joy in their life, and have joy and success at the same time. And so it started with me coaching CEOs, coaching them and helping them. And then I'm a software guy, so I built a system called Rhythm that helps you document your strategic plan, convert them into growth goals, and document your goals in such a way that makes it what I call execution ready, so you can have focus, alignment, and accountability. So now what we do is we coach the CEO, we help them build a strategic plan. We then coach their employees to get their work done, frankly, to learn how to be committed to the accountability. So coming back to what I said about most people fail in execution because
Mm-hmm.
they are not committed to their commitments. And I was in a planning session very recently, and my client was missing the deadlines. They were setting new deadlines. And I shared with my laughter, I said, hey guys, do you know why you've missed your deadlines? Do you know why? And he said, I don't know why. I said, well, I'll tell you why. Because those deadlines are not deadlines. They are wish lines. You wish to those. You didn't freaking commit to that. Like no one died. There's no pain. Just come back to this meeting with me and set a new freaking deadline. Are you crazy? Those are wish lines. Commit and make them deadlines. So yes, I am tough on my clients. That's exactly what I said. And today, that same customer, when they create the deadlines, they actually remember that. Like at the next meeting, we're like creating their accountabilities, and the CEO said, "Folks, these are deadlines, right? These are not wish lines." And we all had a good laugh, and people got more serious about the commitments. So the company today has coaching for CEOs, has a software system that you can document your strategic plans and help you achieve them, hold you accountable to achieving them. And then we provide consulting to facilitate these strategic planning sessions to help you have the right difficult conversations. Some of them are spicy, like what happens is that people commit to priorities and projects that they're not really committed to, and that is a problem. In other words, you ask me to do something, I'm thinking, Gary, that's not going to work, but fine, I'll do it. That's not commitment. I should say to you, Gary, I'm sorry, I don't think that works.
Right.
Like, don't waste your life, don't waste my life. Let's either figure out how to make it work or choose to do something else. but that is a priority I can't commit to. I'm sorry, I don't believe in it. But those are the tough conversations that people don't have, that sometimes you just can't have unless you have a facilitator helping create that environment for you to have those conversations. So what we want to do is help people have the tough, right conversations, create a strategic plans, document it, and then help them run their meetings in such a way that they will achieve these goals. So many of our clients view Rhythm as the operating system for the strategic planning, getting their stuff done. And then the software really provides the guideposts and the discipline to help you get things done. So my business is not that complicated. We provide coaching, we facilitate planning meetings, and then we have software to help you achieve your goals.
Who are your competitors in this space?
They're different. I think we have some competitors that provide just the software, and then we have some competitors like EOS. I would say EOS.
Yeah.
I view them as a friendly competitor though, because they provide a methodology that's quite similar to ours, but they don't have great software like we do. So we actually have quite a few customers also that use EOS as a methodology, but use our software to run that. And then so that's a space we play in. But I think you want to have competitors. I learned a long time ago that if you don't have competitors, I still remember the first time I said to a venture capitalist a long time ago, I said, we have no competitors, we're good. And he said to me, well, Patrick, you have no competitors, I don't want to invest in you. I said, what? He said, if you have no competitors, means either you're stupid or you're not in a market anyone cares about. I was like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. And so I think competitors are good. It validates your marketplace, but you want to be a little bit different, right? You want to be, Michael Porter, who wrote many books on strategy, he talks about not trying to be better, but trying to be different. So we're different in that we have the software and we have the facilitation, and then we have the CEO coaching. So we have a three-pronged strategy that most of our competitors have either one or two of our prongs, but don't have all three.
I know recently you stepped down as CEO and appointed
Yes.
a new CEO and are now
Yeah.
working as executive chair. What's the future of the company? Where do you see this thing moving towards as we move into the following years?
So Amy's our CEO, and her mission is to make the company great. That's her mission. And I think that, I've done this for 20 years now. Like I said, I'm 61, and I think that somebody once said to me, in fact, one of our team members, Chris Cosper, said to me once, she said, there's no success without a successor. And I decided really that as I get older, my passion isn't ebbing, but my energy level is ebbing. And so I wanted to make sure that we have a successor, that the company can continue to grow and, beyond Patrick Thean. I think that was my dream, that, the company grows beyond me. And so her job is to make the company great. And my job is to work less, frankly. I think that one of the things that I've done in the last few years is, not last few years, I would say, I've had 4 jobs at this company. I run the company, I used to run the company as a CEO. I also facilitate planning sessions. I have done more than 600 planning sessions in my career. That's a lot of planning sessions. If you think about, I've planned in Europe, I've planned in Asia, I've planned all of the US and Canada. I've done a lot of planning sessions. In fact, one of my clients challenged me and said, Patrick, it's a Russian client back a few years ago. He said, Patrick, we should do your next planning session in Russia. I'm like, okay, I don't know about that. But anyway, so I've done a lot of planning sessions. And then I'm an author. I've got 2 best-selling books out. It was USA Today, Wall Street Journal best-selling book. So I'm an author. And I write, right? I write blogs and stuff. So I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm a CEO. And I realized that actually I was probably doing a disservice to myself and my company by wearing 4 hats. And so I decided that I really needed, for my company to do better, to be great, I really had to give up a few hats. So the hats I chose to keep are the hats of writing and speaking, being the spokesperson for the company, doing podcasts like this. This is why I'm here. meeting more people. I felt like I needed to be re-energized by meeting more people that I don't know at this stage of my career. And so that's the journey I'm on right now.
Do you think that was a good decision? I mean, it's only been several months, but
It's been a
are you
year.
comfortable with that decision?
It's been almost a year, and it's a great decision. I think Amy has been a gift to me. Actually, I thanked her last week in one of our meetings. I thanked her. I said, you know, I've realized ever since you arrived, it's taken a few months, but I'm actually able to think now. So when you're too busy, my methodology, by the way, is called think, plan, do. And I said to her, I said, you know, I'm really good at the plan and the do, but I have not had enough time on the think. Because for you to really think and strategize, you need to relax. You need your brain to be relaxed. You can't really strategize when your brain's in a vice. And I think I've just had, you know, I'm a workaholic. So I love work. And I told one of my clients and friends that I have very long relationships with the CEOs I coach, by the way. So my newest book, the CEO's Journey to Success, seven key practices on how to be successful, was co-written by me and my first customer, Michael Prager. I've served Michael Prager as his coach for 25 years. So I've got very long relationships with my clients. When I told one of my clients that I was bringing on a CEO, he said, and you have to work less. And I said, yeah, I'm going to work less. I'm going to work. He said, Patrick, I'm serious. You have to work, like try not to work more than 40 hours and spend more time developing the other aspects of your life. And I said, but I only work 40 hours. He laughed. He says, now you're not being honest to yourself. You don't work only 40 hours. You clock out at 40 hours, but what are you doing on Saturday and Sunday? What are you thinking about? Where's your brain? And yeah, I had to confess, he's right. Like yes, I may clock out officially, but no, I'm still working, right? So it was a realization for me that actually I have to let my brain relax a little bit and discover more things. And that's
It's
all.
amazing because this whole concept of I'm working or I'm not working, if you have a job where you're not literally selling a physical product, you're selling your ability to be honest, your ability to think critically, your ability to talk honestly and have what you call spicy conversations with people without them walking out the door. Um, you're going to be thinking about that in the background, whether you're conscious of it or not. It's just not what you do, it's
Yeah,
what you are. And there is a
yeah,
difference between the two.
yeah. In fact, you know, when I take on a CEO client one day, I don't sell my time. I don't sell my time. What I tell them is, you're actually getting a condo in my brain. That's what you're really getting, because I think about you. I don't just go, oh, your coaching sessions at 2 p.m. So from 2 to 3, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not on the clock. You're getting a condo in my brain.
That makes a lot of sense. And I couldn't agree more. Having grown up as a financial advisor, you're in the consulting world full time, oftentimes dealing with people who may start out being somewhat suspect of what you're doing. It's what the outcome might be, but ultimately it transcends that and they recognize you're there more as a shepherd than anything else, not to prevent them from doing things, but to prevent them from doing the wrong things. And you're not just thinking about that when the question comes up, you're thinking about it all the time. And I think that's one of the things that separates someone that's got an entrepreneurial spirit from someone that is literally clocking out at 5 o'clock every day and then out thinking about work till they show up the following day, and every day is the same. I forget the name of the writer, but the phrase was leading lives of quiet desperation, where you always think you're capable of doing something, but you never quite take that jump like you did with Medicis, by the way, by way of example. It's really fascinating stuff. When you dig into the brains of successful people, the hardest part is just getting them to not accept what you're saying as much as it is to get them to look inward and consider it against the backdrop of all that they've learned up until that point. I think that's the only place you can get to get people to actually consider changing anything. So you're going to stay with Rhythm Systems indefinitely? Is there something else on the horizon for you? What's it look like?
Well, I don't have any plans to leave Rhythm Systems. I actually love my job, my role now a lot more since Amy arrived, and I'm renewed. I think I have a podcast also We started this podcast in October. It shows you my lack of originality, right? It's called the CEO Journey to Success podcast. Just like my book is called the CEO Journey to
Good
Success.
branding.
So but I'm enjoying this. Like I've wanted to do this for so many years, and I never did it. And then in October last year, my 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 marketing director, she said, "Why don't we do a podcast? Why don't you do a podcast?" I said, "Melissa, I've had that idea so many times. I've never done it. We even wanted to call it rhythm radio at one point." And she said, "Let's just do it. Let's just do it now." I said, "You know what? I don't I don't know if I can do that." She goes, "Why not? I'll help you. I'll be your co-host. I'll help you." And I said, "Well, I don't know who I'm going to get guests from." And she said, "Oh, we'll get guests. Oh, we have lots of customers. Our customers will start as guests, and then we'll get more guests. It'll be fine, Patrick. It'll be fine." And so we did it. We recorded this week our 32nd episode.
Good for you.
32 episodes. And this is one thing I'll share with you, Gary. One thing I'd love to share is as advice, or one last piece of advice for people listening on is, especially for intelligent people, don't think too much about it. Like sometimes you just have to take that step. And I think if you know too much, in fact, here's why experience hurts. We hire people out of school, they know nothing. That's great, because they know nothing. They don't know things can't be done. So the trouble with experience as a double-edged sword is when you learn too much, oh my God, that's a challenge. Well, that's a challenge. Well, how did you know it's going to go that way? You didn't know it's going to go that way. So you don't know that that's going to be a challenge. So I think sometimes knowledge, experience, wisdom gives you too much, and then you get scared to take that next step. And so I've always encouraged my children and my friends, don't think beyond the next step. Like, can you do the next step? Yes. Of course, you got to have a long-term dream, a long-term strategy. Yes. But you shouldn't have to know how to solve every single problem. Like my problem was I was scared of guests. By the way, I've got a long supply of guests now. And what happened was it just kind of happened out of the blue. We had a guest on, and then I thought it'd be a good idea to ask this guest to give me 2 referrals of CEOs who would like to be on my show. And now every CEO on my show is asked if they would like to give me 2 referrals of CEOs who want to be on my show. And Gary, I'm like booked out like crazy now. And it was just by that one simple innovation of asking a question, would you like to just help me with 2 referrals of people that would enjoy being on this show with me? Right.
It's amazing. It's really, in my world, my business as an advisor was built almost 100% on personal introductions and referrals. And most advisors are terrified of even asking for one. And my question to them is, are you good at what you do? I say, yeah, I'm really good at it. So why wouldn't you want to spread that to as many people as possible, especially people that you're likely to really care about if they're introduced to you by people that you already know? And it's amazing. There's just a certain degree of hesitancy around it, like fear of appearing needy, or you don't want to put somebody on the spot. But, from my perspective, if someone's helping me, truly helping me, I'm not thinking about referring them all the time. But if they ask me, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? Sure, let's pick up the phone and talk to them right now. And it's just incredible. Sometimes, as you say, let's not overthink it.
Yes.
Let's just do it. You've done all the critical thinking up to that point, and you know what the result will be. But there's this hesitancy, and it almost falls, I think, into this category of people who smoke. It's like cognitive dissonance. You know it's bad for you, but you still do it. If you were to ask your close friends and confidants for referrals, they give it to you, but yet you don't. So it's kind of a weird thing that, maybe we're scarred from hearing no too many times. But those are the types of things I jump right in on all the time. If you're not good at what you do, go do something else. If you are, you want as many people to know about it as
Yes.
possible. I love the way you're approaching this, because you've got this combination of the soft skills, the people skills, which probably you had to figure out when you were building Metasis, but then you overlaid this process base on it using some very definitive and repeatable processes, which you can now adapt. And I'm certain you're working with AI as well. I did see something there as well, which is going to redefine things going forward. I think it's a fascinating journey you've been on, Patrick, and I want to thank you for taking the time to share it with us today. How do people find you? What's a great client look like?
Well,
How do you get the word out there?
yeah, so we help mid-market firms. So we specialize in the middle market, people north of 15 million in sales, south of about 300 million in sales. So that sweet spot where life gets very complicated and they don't quite know what to do. So those are the kind of companies we help, and we have a strength in manufacturing, but we help all industries. And come look me up. You can come to my company website, or you just come look up patrickthean.com, and it'll take you to me, and I'd love to share more information with you guys.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're listening to If the Public Only Knew. My guest today has been Patrick Thean, who is approaching the concept of CEO leadership from an electrical engineer's mind. And the result, from everything I can tell, is pretty spectacular. Patrick, pleasure. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Thanks for tuning in to If the Public Only Knew. Don't forget to follow the show and share it with anyone who's ready for the real raw stories behind the business successes. Join Gary next time for another powerful conversation that will leave you inspired and ready to take action.